Hello, you're listening to E-Bible Fellowship's new open form excerpts, and now we present the following excerpt.
Welcome to our program. Please go ahead with your call.
Mr. Chris, can you go to 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 22 and 23, please?
1 Kings 18. Well, I'm going to back up a little bit to verse 19. Now therefore send and gather to me all Israel unto Mount Carmel, and the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the groves 400, which eat at Jezebel's table. So Ahab sent unto all the children of Israel, and gathered the prophets together unto Mount Carmel. And Elijah came unto all the people, and said, How long halt ye between two opinions? If Jehovah be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. Then said Elijah unto the people, I, even I only, remain a prophet of Jehovah, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under, and call ye on the name of your gods. And I will call on the name of Jehovah, and the God that answereth by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and said, It is well spoken.
Yeah, in this day of judgment, the whole world is in one consent, and no one knows the day or the hour. But the Bible, on the other hand, the law and the prophets says that the hidden things belong unto Jehovah, but the revealed belongs unto us and to our children forever. And the Lord He already brought the fire of judgment in this day of judgment spiritually, Mr. McCartney. And I take your response to these verses.
Yeah, here in this contest on Mount Carmel, it was a time of tremendous apostasy in the nation of Israel. I mean, just look at the number of false prophets. 450 prophets of Baal and 400 prophets of the grove. 850 total false prophets and 1 prophet of God, 1 true man, 1 elect child of God in the kingdom, in the nation of Israel. And just like at the end of the church age, the prophets of Baal, and of course, prophets of Baal or prophets of the grove are, we could say, prophets of Satan. They're prophets of the lie. And Satan comes like an angel of light, and his ministers as ministers of righteousness. People who don't really understand the Bible very well think Satan comes in some kind of very evil appearance. You know, you'll be able to tell Satan because he's so diabolical and wicked and evil. You know, it's just dripping with atmosphere, and you'll be able, no, you won't. No, you won't. He's a liar. He's the father of lies. He comes looking like Christ, an angel of light. Christ is the messenger of light in truth. Christ is the light of the world, and Satan comes looking like him, and his ministers, not ministers of God, though they claim God, profess God, though they say they're Christian, his ministers as ministers of righteousness. Whose righteousness? Jesus' righteousness. So they're ministers of Christ. And they get up in the pulpit, and people are easily deceived. Well, you know, unsaved people profess Christians in mouth, but not in heart. They're easily deceived, and they very much are fooled by circumstances and appearances. This is our pastor. What do you mean? He went through our seminary. He's teaching the things our church traditionally teaches. And they don't realize at all that the Spirit of God has departed and Satan's spirit entered in at the time of the end of the church age. And so we really see the contest of truth, and this is very revealing concerning how God works. You know, I don't know how many times it's been said in the past and said presently to the people of God, because the people of God, the true people of God, are few. And back when Mr. Camping was teaching the end of the church age, what many were doing was they were putting him over against all the pastors. None of the pastors agreed. None of them agreed the church age was over. And even with the timeline, the date of May 21, 2011, all the churches said you can't know the day or hour. But here, see, these men were confused because they could see the fruit of the Spirit in a man like Mr. Camping, who had been ministering for decades. It was obvious. It's still obvious in the churches, some in the churches. You know, it's been a while now, and some may have no idea, but most were aware he was a good and faithful man, and that he lifted up the Bible like never before. And yet they're trying to weigh things. Well, yeah, but all the pastors speak with one voice. And, you know, read the Bible about that. Read the Bible. When we find, I think it was Ahab, when Jehoshaphat came to him, and all the prophets of Baal came again, or all the prophets were speaking with one voice concerning a battle. Go up and prosper. The Lord will deliver the enemy into your hands. And Jehoshaphat was a child of God. And despite the fact there were hundreds of prophets with no dissenting voices, hundreds of prophets saying the same thing, it didn't ring true. And so he said, are there no prophets of Jehovah besides these? And Ahab reluctantly said, yes, there's one. But I hate him. I hate him, Micaiah. He never speaks good concerning me, but evil. And Jehoshaphat encouraged him and further. And so they brought out Micaiah, and they tried to tell Micaiah to speak as all the Lord's prophets have spoken good to the king. That's the men who were called to go get him. I believe he was in prison. And they brought him before the king, and he mocked them, and he did mimic what the false prophets were saying. And apparently him and Ahab were very familiar. And Ahab said, how many times have I told you only to speak the truth to me in the name of the Lord? And then Micaiah told him the truth. If you go to this battle, you're going to die. You're going to die. And then they put him back in prison. And so Ahab, being an unsaved individual, didn't believe the truth. He didn't believe the word of God through Micaiah. He went to the battle, and he was struck with an arrow, and he died. He died. And that is typical in the Bible, whether it be Elijah, whether it be Micaiah, whether it be Jeremiah. Jeremiah was called a false prophet. Jeremiah was saying things, unpleasant things, disfavorable things, unpatriotic things. Well, he was saying the word of God in truth, that God had given up Judah to the Babylonians and to the kingdom of Babylon, and they would be victorious, and all the Jews were to go into captivity. And they say, you speak falsely. And they threw Jeremiah into prison. See, this is the character not only of the churches and congregations over the New Testament era, but of the people of God in the Old Testament era, the Jews. It's very similar, all the same, really, where God comes to his elect who only are qualified to speak the truth, and through them they proclaim judgment. They proclaim evil things upon sin, upon those who would call themselves Christian, or those who would call themselves God's people, and yet they don't live like Christians. They don't live like God's people. They live just like the world. And so God has his prophets declare wrath against them. And typically, then historically, some were put to death or some were in prison, and many experienced those kinds of things over the ages into the New Testament era. And that is how it is. And the problem with the people of God of old, the Jews, and the people of God of the New Testament era, well, no longer because the church age is over, but the problem has always been they go with the majority.
Thanks for watching, and be on the lookout for more new open forum excerpts that will be added periodically.